Hey, I am Jen Parr and I am the founder of DIYvinci. So a little bit about me, I am a lover of all things creativity. I consider myself a multimedia artist. And I am also a cat lover. I have two cats named Shadow and Shiva, and they're both tuxedos. So I am a multimedia artist and I love dabbling in just about everything there is. Right now I'm kind of into more paintings, drawings, chalk pastels, paper quilling, and especially digital art right now. I'm really into using Procreate. So my artwork tends to be more on the fantastical side. I've always been a lover of fantasy, and I also add a little bit of surrealism, a little bit of abstract occasionally, and my artwork tends to be more on the soft and whimsical side. So I have always been into art since I was little. My whole family has been into creativity, and it was greatly encouraged when I was young. But as most people, as we go through school, middle school, high school, and we get older, a lot of that creativity is kind of pushed out of us as we're going through school. So throughout my middle school, high school years, I kind of really lost that creative spark. And throughout my whole life, I was really considered a very shy person, very reserved. I was even considered maybe a loner a little bit in high school. I was really starting to go through a lot of struggles, and I really didn't understand what I was feeling and why I was struggling with these things. I had struggled with, learning my whole life. I had, really struggled in social situations. And by mid-high school, I was having some panic attacks, and I didn't even know what panic attacks were and what I was feeling and going through. So by the time I hit high school, I was very, very reserved, struggling a lot. But during my second year of high school, I had picked up a camera and really started loving just being able to create art through that medium. I would take pictures of just about everything, and I loved framing it and just figuring out different perspectives that normally people would miss on a day-to-day basis. So my later high school years, one of my friends really encouraged me to take some art classes, including a photography class. I also decided to take a acrylic and sculpture class as well. And during this time, I really started to come alive. I really found myself in something that I thoroughly enjoyed and could really express myself in a way that I couldn't with words, and I didn't know how to at that point in my life. So those few hours of art classes were like the best part of my day in high school. And of course at this point, I had been an animal lover my whole life, and my career path, I was thinking of going into veterinary school. But that all changed when I started discovering art. So as I was discovering art, I was like, I really want to do something, something I really love and I'm passionate about. How could I turn that into a career? So also at the same time, I was really starting to learn code. I was into that whole, MySpace and Zanga era where you could write HTML and CSS and make your own profiles however you would like. So I decided, oh yeah, coding is kind of a form of art. It's, the code is like the paint and the brush, and it's an ends to a means to create a artistic website. So I decided, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to school for that. So my first 2 years of college, I went to school for web systems and web design. I only ended up with an associate's degree. I did not go on to a bachelor's 4-year school. And I could not find a job at this point in my field. I could not find a web design job in my area. So that led me to just search for a job, just to have a job, to have some income flowing. So I was able to support myself. I found a full-time job in data entry, and it was a great job. It was very basic, whatever you think of data entry, it's very repetitive. there's not a whole lot of creativity with data entry. So this data entry job was actually, even though I was only doing data entry, I was actually in a call center. So there was constant conversations of, customers calling in, outgoing calls. So there was a lot of noise, a lot of movement. And during all this time, I realized my sensory stuff was getting worse. I couldn't handle loud noises, sudden movements would have reactions, sounds were getting worse. I've never been a fan of like the sound of like rubbing hands together. All of that was getting a whole lot worse, and I was not understanding why my anxiety was spiking more than it ever had, despite being on medication for anxiety. My doctors had only diagnosed me with general anxiety disorder at this point, and I had felt like there was something more to all of this than a general anxiety disorder. So I started exploring. I started really looking into it more, and through some YouTube videos I had found, I started to discover I might be autistic. And I was like, okay, so a lot of these things I really relate to. This is something, these things people are saying I've been feeling my entire life, and it suddenly made sense to me. So long story short, I was eventually diagnosed autistic, as well as ADHD, dyspraxic, and dyslexic. And while all these things were like, oh, okay, this makes sense in my life, I also realized art had played a large role in helping me get through some of these struggles. Art became really a way for me to learn more about my inner self, especially since I have alexithymia, where I have trouble identifying emotions. I feel things, but I don't necessarily understand what it is I'm feeling. I'm not able to always describe it. So art was really a way to kind of pull out that expression, and a way to kind of figure out those feelings in a way that, I probably wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Art was also very much a way for me to also kind of refocus my thoughts. So it gave me one thing to kind of hone in on and really focus in on, and block out all those other racing thoughts that are common with ADHD people. So art was also a way to really connect with people. I was able to, we could have that commonality over the art we're creating, and, discuss what it means, or, our love of different art mediums, and really just, being able to have that community surrounding art was amazing. I've also found over the years that art is very therapeutic to me. It kind of helps me sort through like emotions and problems as well. For example, if something horrible is going on in the world, a war, something very tragic, I'll often make an art piece to kind of like sort my thoughts about that, and it really helps me, find a new perspective. So during all of this process, and while I was at work, I had talked to a lot of coworkers. Of course, I was very into creativity, and my coworkers knew this, so they were like, we love your creativity, and I wish I was creative like that. I wish I could do that. And part of me was like, well, why can't you? why can't you, try it? So my thought process was, well, maybe they need some guidance. Maybe, if I, showed them, how to start diving into this sort of thing, they would be able to enjoy art like I have throughout my years, and maybe find something very beneficial about practicing creativity. So that's where the idea of DIYvinci came in. I decided to make kits with instructions and inspiration, so they could make a finished product that they could feel excited about, and realize, hey, yeah, I can be creative, I can do this. So that's where DIYvinci began, and how I kind of got into art, and why art means such a good great deal to me, and I believe it can mean a great deal to so many others, and I want to help people to discover their creativity, discover even if it's just using it as a hobby, or some people go on to make a business out of it, or make an Etsy shop or something, and that's perfectly fine if that's your desire. But also just I believe every human being has a innate human trait of being creative, so utilizing that creativity to express yourself, learn more about yourself, sort through your subconscious thoughts is a huge asset, and something I think a lot of people would benefit from learning. So my tips for other people who are wanting to learn how to be creative, or to get into a specific art medium, or to even use art to help support their mental health, or use it in a therapeutic way, is to start just by being curious and to just try new things. Don't be afraid to dive into new different mediums, new styles, new things, even if you're not sure you'll like it or not. You never know until you try. Don't let perfectionism keep you from trying new things. No one is perfect, and no one's going to become a Leonardo da Vinci overnight. Art takes practice, and as you fail, you learn. So for me, failure is not the opposite of success, it is a part of success. And what I find with art is that it's not the finished piece that always matters. It's really the whole process, the process of self-discovery, the process of creating something from nothing, that is really what art is all about.
DIYvinci would love to feature your art story. Click the link in the video description to submit your story.